The world has already been an active witness to the economic miracle that transformed China from a poverty-ridden country into a global economic powerhouse within 4 decades. However, and there always is a but, demographic changes, especially the aging of its population and the consequent shrinking labor force, are expected to decelerate China's growth. This inevitable slowdown prompts an essential question: what's next for the global economy? And the quest for a new engine to fuel global growth points to a promising direction: Africa. With the imminent demographic shifts in China, India, and other major economies, it's important to consider Africa's potential as a key player in the global economy. So today on Profit Protection, we'll set out to answer whether Africa can realistically transform itself into a global economic hub in the near future, and why this notion is out there in the first place. So without further ado, let's crunch some numbers, but don't worry, I'll do all the math. Put your calculators away. The UN estimates that Africa's population will surge from 1.4 billion to 2.5 billion by 2050. This significant increase is a contrast to the anticipated population decline in major economies like China, Japan, and even Europe. Consequently, the world economy might experience a sharp slowdown unless Africa's booming youth population provides the much-needed productivity boost. Africa's fertility rate at 4.3 children per woman is about to double that of the rest of the world, and while this high fertility rate partly reflects limited access to education, it's also positioning Africa as the world's last reservoir of youthful labor, which is great news for sweatshop employees in Southeast Asia. So much in fact that by 2050, Africa's prime age working population will outnumber that of Europe, China, and India combined. Yes, combined. So it's clear that the future growth of the global economy rests significantly on Africa's young shoulders. No pressure though, but I know, there's that word again. While acknowledging Africa's potential, we must also temper our expectations with the realities of the continent. Africa's journey to becoming the next global growth engine will not be without its challenges. Historical precedents, including a lack of access to quality education, corruption, internal conflicts, and poor infrastructure, could serve as potential roadblocks. However, we must remember that China also began its economic transformation while grappling with numerous challenges, such as Mao Zedong. So for Africa to emulate and possibly surpass China's success, just make sure Mao Zedong doesn't come back to life, and it would be probably beneficial for them to leverage their youth bulge effectively. Investments in quality education and skill training would help, because not only does this help in reducing fertility rates, but also creates a skilled labor force that can contribute significantly to economic growth. Moreover, Africa's development path should be different from China's. The Asian giant's fast-paced growth, heavily reliant on coal, has been a tad detrimental to the environment. With growing concerns about climate change, Africa's development path must prioritize environmental sustainability. The good news is that Africa is blessed with abundant renewable energy resources like hydro, solar, wind, tidal, and geothermal power. You name it, baby. Harnessing these resources for clean energy development presents a unique opportunity for Africa to champion a new model of sustainable economic growth. Moreover, the rise in foreign direct investment in Africa reflects the continent's growing attractiveness as an investment destination. The lower labor costs compared to Southeast Asia have captured the attention of investors seeking new business opportunities. Yeah, whatever that means. However, caution is required to mitigate potential risks associated with unchecked capital inflows. The lessons learned from the global financial crisis emphasize the need for careful scrutiny and regulation to ensure sustainable economic growth. However, and that's a fancy but, Africa's transformation will not only be the responsibility of Africans. Global actors, both public and private, need to play an active role in facilitating Africa's development. This can include providing aid, investing in infrastructure, promoting technology transfer, and supporting policy reforms. Africa's abundance of natural resources has traditionally positioned the continent as a stage for resource extraction by external actors, aka the Western world and, I guess, China as well. So to foster internal prosperity, Africa must undergo a structural transformation. This transformation entails shifting away from a reliance on resource exports and toward value-added production, industrialization, and the development of the manufacturing sector. By embracing a more proactive role in the global economy, Africa can enhance its competitiveness and reduce vulnerability to commodity price fluctuations, and maybe live up to Wakanda. Also, Africa's limited integration into the global economy during the global economic crisis ironically served as a protective shield. It presents Africa with a strategic opportunity to diversify its economy away from agriculture and reduce its susceptibility to price fluctuations. By expanding into industries such as manufacturing, services, and technology, Africa can create more stable and sustainable sources of economic growth. So take that. That being said though, Africa needs to undergo paradigm shifts to reshape its approach to globalization and redefine its role in the global economy. By transitioning from primarily being a consumer to becoming an active producer, Africa can tap into the potential of its youthful population and boost industrialization. This shift necessitates investment in education and skills development to equip the continent's youth with the necessary knowledge and capabilities to drive innovation and productivity. Moreover, changing global perceptions about Africa is also essential. Africa's narrative should move beyond stereotypes and misconceptions to showcase its economic potential, investment opportunities, and diverse markets. Nuanced understandings of Africa's unique context will attract foreign direct investment, foster collaboration, and drive economic prosperity. So while we've discussed a lot of what could happen, we need to also address whether it will. I can't say for sure because anything is possible after all, but contrary to popular American belief, we're looking at an entire continent, not just one country here, meaning there are so many moving parts that need to work together, and as Peter Zeihan describes it here, it's not likely to come together efficiently.
What contribution do you see from the African continent in terms of global manufacturing horsepower?
Oh, manufacturing? None, very little. Africa is a series of stacked plateaus, so just getting the infrastructure in there to access anything is very difficult. And while they do have very high birth rates and a more stable population structure, a lot of that is only possible because they export raw commodities and then import the things that allow them to have a degree of modernity. You break down global supply chains, a lot of that goes away. And so I think a lot of Africa is going to devolve. And they just don't have the infrastructure or the skilled labor that's necessary to participate at scale. And even if they did, in a less robust security environment, the connections necessary to make that happen are going to be very thin. So I think it's far more likely that the North American manufacturing system will start incorporating pieces of South America. We already have free trade deals with Colombia and Chile, for example. But yeah, I'm afraid that Africa really can't be part of that. Now, we might see pieces of Africa following the Indian model. I can see Nigeria becoming broadly self-sufficient. I can see a partial reboot of South Africa, but that's for their own domestic markets rather than any sort of international connection.
So, like he said, countries like South Africa or Nigeria do have the tools at hand to individually reinvest and sustain their economies. To see this on an EU scale is not very likely, which, to answer our question of whether Africa can realistically become a global economic hub, for now, not so much. So Africa definitely holds the potential to be the next engine of global economic growth. However, its potential must be realized through strategic investments in human capital, institutional reforms, and a commitment to sustainable development, something that is much easier said than done, like the saying goes. Don't fall in love with potential. Nevertheless, if you want to stay updated on news from Africa's economic situation, as well as all things related to economics, geopolitics, and technology, keep it tuned to Profit Protection and make sure you subscribe. Also, don't hesitate to like this video to show your support. We also have other videos you might enjoy as well, like this one where we talk about a battery that has the potential to last 20,000 years. I know. But in the meantime, take care and we'll see you next time.